What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the situation with Sony and Bungie continues to get seemingly worse and worse, with more information getting out there around previous canceled projects and even a very uncertain future going forward when it comes to some of the management there, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a surprise drop from Nintendo last night into their Switch online service that once again has people asking for Pokemon games, and then we'll also be talking about Microsoft at Gamescom, as it seems like they have a pretty full slate of titles, but they could also be announcing a pretty major delay here soon. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below, and of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you'd like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're going to start today with Amazon Prime Gaming. If you have Amazon Prime right now, you may be unaware that you can actually just go and claim a bunch of games that get added each month. And I just wanted to point this out because I saw the selection of games and I thought, that's actually not bad. I have Amazon Prime, so I went in and just clicked some of these and they just claimed and were added to my library. Now, there is one caveat here. Some of these are indeed through the Epic Game Store launcher. I know that's a whole issue right now with PC gamers. Some, though, are through GOG, which means they're DRM free and you just get them. But we can see this is posted up by Wario64, made it very easy to put here on screen for you. And we have some that are available right now, which include SteamWorld Heist, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, again, you can see through GOG, Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness. If I don't know what else would make you want to go and open up Amazon Prime Gaming and get this stuff claimed right now than Angel of Darkness. Then also The Last Revelation and Chronicles. And you can see the list of games throughout August: Gravity Circuit, you have Loop Hero, Trek to Yomi, Baldur's Gate 2 Enhanced Edition, Hard West 2, Grime, the Definitive Edition, Arcade Paradise, Industria. So there is quite a bit here, and I just point this out for anyone who already has Amazon Prime. You might as well get as much value as you can out of your subscription and just go in there and click a few buttons to claim them, add them to your library. Even if it's something you're not going to play now, you have it for, I'm sure, that backlog that's, of course, caught up completely. Also, we did have some news break when it comes to just what else but layoffs. That seems to be a common trend over the last year and a half, especially in games, but also just in tech. And, well, take a look at this number here. This is from Intel, who's actually set to lay off more than 15% of the workforce, which Intel is very large. 15,000 or more employees. You can kind of see why they lead with the percentages. 15% doesn't sound as bad as 15,000. They've encountered Meteor Lake yield issues, and they've also suspended their dividend, which absolutely crushed them on the stock market. If you look at that in after hours, down 18.9%. So things looking pretty sketchy right now with Intel, but that number, even with all the layoffs we've had, seeing that 15,000 employee number for layoffs, even that was a little like, whoa, okay, that's quite shocking, the number of layoffs there just from that one company. But Intel, yeah, they're struggling a bit now. I'm not really sure what turns things around for them currently, because I know when it comes to their GPUs, they aren't exactly lighting the world on fire, and they are having issues right now when it comes to the CPU side of things. So we'll see over the coming year for Intel. Oh, and we do have Disney's D23 event next week, and it seems they could have a sizable focus on gaming. At least we can see this is posted up. This is from Sheena, who says Disney will hold its D23 event on August 9th through 11th, and they confirm that gaming will play a big part in the event. So they're pointing to things like Fortnite, crossover with Marvel, which, let's be real, that is going to be a big deal when that does happen. Fortnite being massive, of course, having all the different Marvel intellectual properties, then crossover. Yeah, it's going to get a lot of eyes and interest on that. Maybe Indiana Jones, I guess that could be in there. Probably something with Star Wars, most likely. Outlaws getting that final push up until release, but definitely want to keep an eye on D23 next week, at the bare minimum, just for some of the headlines as it happens. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Bungie and Sony, as this story continues to evolve, and I'm going to tell you now, you're going to see a lot of information seemingly come out at some point today with a report from Jason Schreier, which we'll get to here in a minute. First, though, let's discuss the idea of Destiny 3, as, of course, Destiny 2 has been going on for a while, and that does eventually come up. It's like, hey, when are we going to get the next big Destiny game? As that could most likely onboard a ton of new players as well as returning players and really reinvigorate, I would say, the brand and that intellectual property. Well, we can see this is posted up by Jeff Grubb. He says the short version is that Payload, which is the next Destiny, is being shelved indefinitely. They do not internally consider it Destiny 3 for what it's worth. That, again, the big question right now is what is going on with Destiny 3. Are they making it? Well, then Jason Schreier came in and to clear up some of the rumors floating around, Destiny 3 was not canceled because it was never in development, per people familiar. Bungie did some very early work on a spin-off project called Payback, but they canceled that a while ago. Goes on to say he'll have a story tomorrow, that being today, with more info. So Payback just being a spin-off project, most likely just to go alongside of just the Destiny brand and the mainline game, maybe to build out the universe a bit more with some backstory. Who knows, they can maybe come up with an original story there in that same universe. And then to go a bit further here, Stephen Totillo had a story that he posted up on GameFile News, where he spoke to ex-Bungie workers about yesterday's big cuts, saying this round was in the works prior to final shape. Remember, we kind of discussed the idea that expansion did well, but we still had layoffs after that. The feeling is Bungie bosses oversold studio to Sony, and I would agree with that. I think in this situation, both sides kind of overvalued Bungie in some regard. I mean, clearly, when they're looking to sell Bungie, they're trying to get more money from Sony. And Sony, who was out there trying to figure out their live service initiative, well, they see Bungie as more valuable because they felt the knowledge they would bring to the table is worth more than just like Destiny itself, that intellectual property. But check this out, not selling would have been worse. The alternate history is insolvency, and yeah, that is actually something that's been discussed quite a bit behind the scenes, even leading up to this, because remember, there were stories way, like, before the announcement of Sony actually working to acquire Bungie, that they had gone out to even, like, Microsoft had looked at them. Microsoft seemingly passed them up a bit, and well, Microsoft doesn't really have too many issues when it comes to their service-based stuff. Like, they know over everything else really how to do some of these multiplayer games, or at least have a lot of experience. Sony's still kind of trying to figure that out. And while they certainly, I'd say, knocked it out of the park with Helldivers 2, we're kind of seeing issues with Concord. So you figured we see Bungie come in and just try to smooth out some of those issues and pick and choose which ones are seemingly ready for prime time, those being these live service games. However, Bungie seemingly has had issues for quite some time, and a lot of that comes down to the management there. As in, they don't seem to be very good at managing revenue in versus the expenses that you're taking on. So it's the math isn't mathing, as people would say. And in this situation, the optics are not helping at all. So there's a story that Kotaku ran, actually, and we could take an excerpt from it here, saying Sony purchased Bungie, the original studio behind Halo and the maker of Destiny 2, for a whopping $3.6 billion in 2022. Following the sale, Bungie CEO Pete Parsons purchased over 20 classic cars in online auctions costing millions of dollars. According to this account on the website, Bring a Trailer, he continued buying them even after mass layoffs at the studio. Now, we know in the US, CEOs do get paid very, very well, right? I mean, this is kind of how it is. Capitalism, competition when it comes to pay scales have moved CEO pay up quite a bit, whether it's just through outright salary or bonuses that they tend to, yes, give to themselves, but still that seems to be a common occurrence. So in the instance of Pete Parsons here buying cars with money that he has been able to get from the company through way of just CEO pay or bonuses, it's not really something that I look at and go, oh, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. No, the optics are very bad, but also there was discussion that he also was showing off his cars days before layoffs, even after layoffs. It's like, that's not a great look. But this still comes back to the idea that the thing you would criticize is their actual production as CEO, and it's not been good. Like that's the biggest part here, is obviously the studio was not running to like well in terms of making money. It was just completely losing money and seemingly them heading towards insolvency, as Stephen Totilo wrote in his report. But of course, I'm sure we'll hear more information later on today, as Jason Schreier has sort of alluded to, as his reports tend to be very thorough with a bunch of sources. So I'm sure we'll get all kinds of extra information as to the inner workings of Bungie and now Sony, who of course now is much more integrated with them than before. Next up, let's talk about a surprise announcement from Nintendo for their Nintendo Switch Online service, and in this case, it's for the Game Boy Advance, so of course that being the Switch Online service plus expansion pack, and I saw this pop up, I saw the first word, which was Pokemon, and I thought, oh, here we go, are we finally going to be getting any of the mainline Pokemon games, legacy mainline Pokemon games, dropped into NSO? Not quite. We can see this is posted up over on their official account, where they say, introducing the newest Pokemon. It's you. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team is coming to Nintendo Switch for Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion members on August 9th. So, okay, next week. And look, there were people in the comments, replies, who were very, very excited for this. Some were wondering, okay, wait, that's Red Team, where's Blue Team? Blue Team is a DS game, so no DS at this time anyway on NSO. Maybe that's a future thing they do down the line, even for the next system, to add more value to the service as they go forward. But I'm not the biggest fan of Mystery Dungeon in general. I played the demo for the remake, I believe, of this, that being DX on the Switch. It just wasn't working for me. And to be honest, I'd rather even Pokemon Pinball, which is actually a very good game. I think people overlook that one. Pokemon Pinball is a lot of fun. Even if it's just the original Game Boy one, that had like a rumble motor on it, so it was really, really cool. And the Game Boy Advance one, I would say, was technically a bit better, but that is sort of the route I'd rather go. I know everyone wants to have that mainline Pokemon game announced for NSO, and I would love to see it as well. Even if it's the original Blue and Red, they don't even give you a Fire Red and Leaf Green where they did a bunch of updates, whether it's for different moves or making the path a bit easier, even for Charmander in the beginning to gyms. The originals with online link cable play would be incredible, but we still haven't seen it, and based on how far we are into the generation now, probably won't be. However, there's still hope, I think, for something like Pokemon Pinball and apparently even just Mystery Dungeon. But hey, if you're a big Mystery Dungeon fan, you're probably very excited to see this one hit the service next week. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft, as they did outline their overall show at Gamescom. This will take place August 21st to the 25th, so about 3 weeks from now, and it seems like they will be showing up with a full slate of games, some just being shown off, others having full hands-on, and this was outlined in a page that they posted up over on their website. And in this page, they do talk about Return to Gamescom with over 50 titles to check out. Some of the titles with hands-on time will be Age of Mythology Retold, Aura, History Untold, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, Fallout 76 Milepost Zero, The Elder Scrolls Online Gold Road, and Towerborn. I will say, looking at the list here, it's nothing that jumps out to me necessarily, because there were a couple of other titles I was looking to maybe have hands-on time and get some impressions around, although I guess Towerborn could be kind of interesting just to see what that's about there. But they will have exclusive theater presentations for Avowed, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and Starfield Shattered Space. Of these three, Starfield Shattered Space, there's some reports and discussion around this maybe releasing in September, so seems like a good spot for this to get a release date announcement. And of course, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We're going to need a release date for that one because I do believe it is coming out this year. The other game, which we'll get to here in a second, maybe not as much, but this should be a pretty big showing for Microsoft, all things considered. I don't believe they're going to go out there and have some earth-shaking announcements with brand new releases or titles. I think this is more or less them setting things up for this stretch with the holiday season, and then a little bit in that first quarter of 2025. But Gamescom for them is just that, as they will have a bunch of streams that'll take place, so there will be plenty to watch and check out. Seemingly things just where they're sitting down and playing the game and talking about them at length. So think about how Nintendo will do their treehouse stuff, or they'll just sit down, or for a while they did this, where they sit down and just play for a while. That's kind of what I'm expecting from Microsoft at Gamescom, as they have several streams that they've outlined over on this page. So make sure you check that out if you're curious to pick out maybe a game or two that you're more interested to see, and you can spend some time, I guess, watching them play and outline some of the different aspects around it. But they won't be at Tokyo Game Show, so this seems like their big event heading into the holiday season. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the other game that was listed there for those theater presentations, and that's Avowed, because it does appear, based on a new report, that we'll actually have to wait a little longer to get our hands on that one. This was actually broken by Tom Warren, we can see over on his official account, where he says, Microsoft is about to delay Avowed slightly. I'm hearing that Obsidian is about to announce an Avowed delay to early 2025. He has more written about this in Notepad that he has linked there to The Verge. He does mention that it's not because the game is in rough shape or anything like that. More so, they're just running out of room for where to even put it for this holiday season. So think about it this way. We're in August now. We don't have a release date for Avowed, so it's not coming out in August. Like that's kind of out the window at this point. They would want at least some sort of run-up for pre-orders and obviously being able to ship the game out to retailers and have that presence. But Avowed wouldn't really be there then in September if that's where the Shattered Space DLC is going to be. October, well, you'd have Call of Duty, and you don't want to be anywhere around Call of Duty for that release, since that would be a first-party game now for Microsoft, and it's going to be pretty big with Black Ops 6. And then in November, there's Stalker 2, and I believe December would be Indiana Jones, although that could be maybe like first half of November. Again, you see, you're kind of running out of places to put Avowed, and that's a game that I feel like could kind of get lost next to some of these other titles. So it would be better off if that maybe had an entire month, like a 2-week buffer on either side of it, to just sort of be there in gaming and have more focus placed on it. Now think about those titles I just listed, and then also all the other ones they're showing off at Gamescom, some trying to drop in still seemingly this year with Age of Mythology, Aura, Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred, Towerborn, and then you also have Microsoft Flight Simulator. So again, it just seems to be very crowded for the next few months for Microsoft, and after seeing Avowed, it did look a little sketchy at times. Might not be the worst idea just because they have so much on offer leading up through December to maybe push this thing first half of 2025, get some more time to develop and smooth some of the rough edges out, and have it ready to go to kick off the next year, maybe in like that March time frame. That doesn't seem like a bad spot for it. Again, trying to put more of a spotlight on Avowed and Obsidian. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, how many hours a week do you spend playing games currently? Okay, so 39%, 1 to 5 hours, 27%, 6 to 10 hours, 15%, 10 to 15, 7% on 15 to 20, and then, hey, 12%, 20 hours plus, which technically I would fall into the 20 hours plus, but also I do capture a lot of footage. I have more opportunity to play, obviously, as part of the channel here and stuff. And trust me, I get it. When you're out there, then you're an adult, you're in the workforce, you got like family to deal with. I understand there are a lot of people who are like that 1 to 5 or 6 to 10, and you're like, some people I know get 1 day a week where they can really sit down and play a game. And that does make me think about how right now so many game companies are diving into live service, just trying to pull people in all directions to spend all their time on one game, when they don't have as much time, I guess, as these companies believe they do to play these different games. That's the biggest thing. Time is the most limited currency at this point for everyone involved. So yeah, when I see some of these results, it does make me wonder if that live service future is really a great idea. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from 55. It says, Bungie has no idea what a good or bad live service game is. They only got lucky with their timing. So that's, I guess, just referring to Destiny in general. Look, Destiny, when it came out, new IP, it did get a lot of interest, and then they were able to build on that to Destiny 2. So they do have a history of being able to create live service games now, with 2 of them technically under the belt, and have continued to have Destiny 2 be ongoing and actually find success with that in terms of just interest and keeping a pretty sizable concurrent player count. But I am curious if they'd be able to replicate that in terms of, it's not really a new IP because they used it before, but be able to revive something like Marathon in sort of a different sector with that extraction shooter and find that same success. Are they legitimately like just like a one-hit wonder technically with the Destiny IP? Because while Halo, I mean, they did great work with Halo, wasn't a live service game on the level of what we see with something like Destiny. And can they make that work then and translate it over to Marathon? That's the biggest question I have, and I'm very curious to see if they can pull that off. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was a situation around Sony and Bungie and some of the mismanagement right now at that studio. Then also about Nintendo dropping in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon for the Game Boy Advance, and Microsoft at Gamescom with seemingly Avowed set up for a delay into 2025. How do you feel about that? Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 Eastern Time for Newswave.